Hi guys, welcome to Always Yarn First, a podcast about knitting, crochet, and all the yarny goodness in between. I'm Lindsay and I'm coming to you from Little Rock, Arkansas, and you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry also as Always Yarn First. So welcome to episode 7. It's been a couple weeks. I just want to say before we get started that I'm hoping that if you're watching this now, it's that you can take a little time for yourself and relax with a beverage, your knitting, your crochet, weaving, embroidery, cross stitch, all the things, and take a breather from the things going on in the world right now, the stresses you have in your life. It's a stressful time, so I hope that you can take this moment of peace and just relaxation for yourself. So, if you've been here before, welcome back. Thank you for coming back. If you've been here before, you know that I always name my episodes after songs that I love because I am a big music person. So this week's song is My Universe by Coldplay and BTS. Kind of both for knitting and music. Knitting is my universe, music is my universe, and I had to pick another BTS song this week because after I filmed this podcast, my daughter and I are going to see them in concert, kind of, at the theater. They're live streaming their concert from Korea, and we got tickets to the theater, see it at our theater, so I'm super excited for that today. So, also I have a Ravelry group for this podcast. It's fairly new, so not much going on right now, but I'd love it if you join me there and we can chat and get to know each other. And I am hosting 2 make-alongs currently. So the first one is the Chevron Year Itch. I'm co-hosting with Lori from Arkansas Yarn Co. And we are doing a year-long make-along for Chevron blankets. It can be crochet or knitting. It started February 1st of this year. It goes to the end of January next year. I am hosting it on Instagram using the hashtag. But if you don't have Instagram, you want to post finished objects once you have your blankets done, you can go to Arkansas Yarn Co. group on Ravelry and post your finished objects there. And we'll be pulling prizes occasionally from both of those places. The second one I'm hosting here is the /My Stash 2022 mount. So that is mostly on Instagram, again with the hashtag. And the only rules of that is it has to be a project using all stash that you had before this calendar year. So post, it doesn't have to be finished as you're posting it, just post them as you're working on them on Instagram. Also, there is a thread for finished objects on Ravelry, on my Ravelry group, that you can post there because some aren't on Instagram. So every month I pick a winner. I combine those names and then do a random random number generator and pick a winner. And February's winner was Amy from Amy's Yarn Habit on Instagram. And I haven't heard from her, but she should have already received her yarn by now. So congratulations to her. So I thought I would show you the March giveaway that I have. This will be the prize for March. This is Hue Loco. It is tweed sock, which is an 85% merino, 15% nylon knit. So I have had a couple of these different colors from her, and they're really nice. In fact, I've made one in socks for my daughter, which she really likes. In fact, it needs fixed. So this will be the giveaway. So if you want to win this yarn, post your projects on Instagram, post your finished projects on the Ravelry group, and the first day of April, I will pick a winner. So good luck to you there. All right, so let's get into it. First of all, what I'm wearing. I'm wearing the Rift by Jacqueline Cieslak. This was knit in Stress Knits DK in her color Siren. for those who are asking. And I will post everything I talk about below in the notes about this episode. So I have 0 finished objects this week, but that's okay. But I do have 2 new casts on. So let's talk about the first one that is super exciting. So a few weeks ago, last episode I talked about my favorite podcasts, and one of them was Professor Purl. And the last episode, she had put out kind of like a test call just on her podcast. She didn't put it on Instagram. I watched it pretty much right when she posted her podcast, as I always do, and I applied to test knit her sock pattern. And then I immediately forgot about it. And then one night I was checking my email, and I was all of a sudden in an Instagram group with all these people, and I'm like, what's happening? Oh, I got accepted to test knit. So I was super excited. So Nicole has made this pattern where she made a sock in fingering weight plus, mohair. This is my sock. This is called the Celaena sock. It is not out yet. I don't know when it will be out. So she gave me permission I could show this. So this one that I knit was in fingering weight plus mohair. I used from my stash. So I used, my fingering weight is from Wool & Vine, her footsie base in Unicorn Tracks. And I used Legacy Fiber Arts Cloud Base in the color Pop Fizzle. And let me show you what they look like. I haven't started my second one yet. There is the different 2 colors I had. So this pattern also, if you don't want to use mohair, it is also written for a DK weight sock. So you can do the pattern in fingering plus mohair, or you can do DK weight. I wanted to try this because I've done plenty of DK weight socks, which I love, but I've never even thought of using mohair in a sock. So I was super curious about it. This is going to be so warm and wonderful. And I haven't blocked this yet. I knew if I blocked it when I finished it, it'd still be wet and I wouldn't be able to show it so clearly. But the texture on this, it's basically different kinds of ribbing, but it is so good. And I never make a leg this long on my socks. I don't like long legs. But I flew through this leg. I couldn't believe how long it was. This is the longest leg I've ever made in a sock. And I flew through it like nothing because it was so fun to make. So as soon as, probably tomorrow, I'm going to cast on the second one. And then I already have an idea, like I want to try the Surrey I have with another fingering weight. And again, perfect for slashing my stash, going through what I have with all my single skeins. And again, this uses a heel flap and gusset, which I have done before. It's been so long. I usually like the shadow wrap heel, which I have memorized super fast. It fits me well. But I don't know. I kind of enjoyed this and just how it really doesn't have any holes or anything in it. I think I, might put this heel back on my rotation. I really enjoyed it. So this sock is lovely, and I'm really excited to block it and then get the other one done. So we can use this, although it's, warming up here. So don't know how much use we'll get out of them this season, but those are great. So keep an eye out on her feed for that pattern because it's wonderful. All right, so the other cast on I have is a crochet cast on. I think it's in here. Yep. I think I talked about it previously. This is a pattern I'm making as a sample, actually, for Arkansas Yarn Co. So they can have some crochet samples. So there's the pattern. picture. It's called the Hayride Triangle Scarf, and I finally started on it. I haven't worked on it since I've been doing the sock because I've been addicted to the sock, but I actually made really great progress on this. Try not to lose my ball of yarn here. In fact, so here it is, just like a big old triangle. So I'm not into the second color yet. So this will be the border, essentially, of this shawl. So I think it'll be a really nice, because I liked how much of a contrast the picture and the pattern had, and I wanted something similar. And I am using Malabrigo Arroyo, and the pink is the color Peggy, and the blue that I haven't got into yet is called Azul Profundo. So that's really fun. And again, of course, I've been doing like my crochet granny squares, which is fun. But when I started this, like, I forgot like how fast crochet is. The stitches are a bit bigger. You use more yarn for sure. But that triangle was, I think, a couple days work. Like, I just was flying through it and couldn't believe how big the triangle was getting. So I'm really excited to get that going for the store. I think that'll be a great sample, and it's a really great pattern if you want to learn crochet. It's basic stitches, and it has a chart and written instructions. So, and that's from Toni Lipsey, who is TL YarnCrafts, who I have followed forever on Instagram. She has amazing patterns and tutorials too. So, all right, next, let's see. I will show my chevron blanket that I am doing for the Chevron Year Itch. Now, I have a separate video on my YouTube here that has the unboxing of the February color, and then Lori and I both showed our blankets so far up to that point. So that was last Monday. So since then, I've made a good deal of progress. I mean, it's pretty much the same thing all the way across. So I'll show you where I have my stitch marker at. So when I showed it on the unboxing, I had done all of last month's colorway, and then I started with the white, which is the wedding cake colorway. I had stopped there because I thought that's all I was going to do before this month's colorway. But then when I got there, Lori had dyed this gray. This is, of course, this is all in her sparkle base. But this gray, she's calling granite. And to me, this is my perfect gray. I love this color. And she had told me that she dyed some for her to add into her chevron. And I'm like, well, I hope you dyed enough for me to take home. So I kind of love the thought of, you know, I don't know what the color is going to be every month. It's a surprise to me. So this is what it's going to be like for me between the month colors. I will do the month color. I did two rows of the wedding cake, the white. And then I did 6 rows of granite. And then back to 2 rows of wedding cake. And then I will do this month's color. This month's color here is called Magically Delicious. And I will go till I basically can't make it across fully anymore, which is what I did with the first color, the My First Love. So again, you can find more information about Lori and my blanket on that video, so check that out. This is perfect TV knitting. And like I said, it's for our the Chevron Year Itch make along. But you can crochet a chevron blanket too. You don't have to knit it, and you don't have to use Lori's yarn. But we just are wanting to see that. So please make sure you use the hashtag on Instagram, because we've been following and looking at people's projects, and those that are using her monthly subscription box. Even then, all the blankets look so different, which is really cool to watch. So that is my blanket. The next project, I haven't made a ton of progress, but I'm going to talk about goals later on, and this is one of my goals. I would love to get this off my needles this month. This is my Alei shawl. Of course, it's all jumbled up. Okay, so I've shown this many times before. This is using a 3 skein I had gotten together from Barnyard Knits. I'm in the last section, this last color. So I don't have much. And I love this. It's gorgeous. I want it done. I want to use it. But I talked about this before. For some reason, with some projects, when I get close to the end, like I lose interest, which is the dumbest thing. Because you're like, just finish it. You're so close. But I get so, I'm like, oh, that's not fun anymore. It's just boring stuff at the end when I could have a finished object. So this one I've started doing, you can see where my stitch marker is. I haven't got a ton done. And that's only been done because this week I picked it back up and I've started back up on the 30 minutes of knitting. Both the Crazy Sock Lady and Knitty Natty have talked about before. For me, I use that as, of course, I knit more than 30 minutes a day, but when I get up in the morning, I'm a morning person, so I get my coffee, and that's when I'm the most refreshed, the most awake, and engaged. So for me, the first project I touch is my 30 minutes of knitting a day. Now, that could be a project that maybe it's like a problem I have to rip back and fix a problem, or it's something like this where I'm like, I'm not loving working on it right now, but I really want to make progress. That's my 30 minutes of knitting. I make myself do it 30 minutes, and then when that's done, I get to work on whatever I want. So we'll see. I have, 3 weeks left in the month. I think I'll get it done as long as I keep with my 30 minutes of knitting a day. So, and like I said, that's Barnyard Knits. The 3 colorways were in Cinderella Pumpkin, Fairy Tale Pumpkin, and White Pumpkin in her Merino Nylon fingering base. So, and that's in my, I always forget to talk about my bags. My Fringe Supply Co. bag, they're out of business. Okay. My other project that is a goal to finish this month. This one I have made more progress on. This is my V-back tee. All my little skeins in here. This is in a Mrs. Brown's bag. And just because I'm a little nervous, I'm going to put the little stoppers on it here. Okay. So, you can see here is the V side. This you can see really all the colors coming through. My stitch marker is of course on this other side, so you can see how much progress I've made. Quite a number of inches here. So this one's going really good. In fact, let's see, I'm using my Pineapple Yarn Advent Calendar. So I had 24 minis, and I am on color 18 currently. So I'm close. I'm close. And this one I'm just knitting. I talked about last time how in the pattern at this point, you were going to do short rows, but you had to change the color in certain parts. And I didn't want to have to think about that because I was using so many minis. So I'm just knitting and just keeping up with the pattern, to make the V line all the way down. I'm just going to keep doing that. And I think I kind of want a longer rib at the bottom. This is going to be a bit longer, and so I'm going to do a longer rib. So I'm thinking 2 or 3 of the last colors I'm just going to do ribbing. So this is the color I'm currently on. She did not name these, so they're just numbered. But to give you an idea of what's coming next in order, this is 18, 19, 20. So this is super fun. And it's just so bright and colorful to look at. So it's been super fun to knit on. I'm having a good time with that. And because I've been using the scraps left from that to add to this, let's see, where is, so you can see I've added quite a bit to this. I have one color I haven't yet added that I finished on my sweater but haven't added to this. So this is just going to be like a lapgan, kind of giant granny square. And I think because it's not going to be super big, even for a lapgan. So what I decided to do for this, now this is a lovely gradient that it's making, which is awesome. But I think what I decided to do is that Marina from Pineapple Yarn does, she does a couple clubs per month. But she has specifically a mini club, a mystery mini club, where it's 3 20-gram skeins a month. And all of her colors are bright, gorgeous. So I think I'm going to pause my row 1 subscription for a while, which is what I'm doing my granny squares for a very long-term king-size blanket for my bed. I haven't worked on that at all this month. I have, I think, at least 4 months worth of those to catch up on. So I think for the time being, I'm going to pause that subscription and I'm going to get some months of Marina's mini clubs and then add it to this lapgan. Because I'm really enjoying the bright, fun colors of this one. So, and I want to keep working on that as they go. So, I have worked on one more project. One of my other sweaters, I think again because this sweater also is just knitting the body right now. And this one's a little bit messy because I am switching out yarns every row. This is my Cape Creek Minimalist Pullover by Greene. And let's see. So you can kind of see right there. I'm loving this color. This is in olive yarn, worsted weight, and the colorway is Horizon. And here is my marker. So I got a couple inches on this one done. Again, by the time I finish this, it'll be way too warm here for me to wear, but I don't even care. I love it. And if you watched a few episodes ago, this was my 5-year in the making sweater because of the story with the yarn and the pattern. So I'm just so excited to see this. Forget make 9. This is like 5 years ago, make 1. So this one is really fun. I'm loving the yarn. I'm using, instead of helical knitting, I'm using Professor Purl Easy Alternator for switching out yarn, and it's been great. It's been really good. It's seamless. You can't tell. I can't even believe how easy it is to do it. She has a tutorial video on her website, and it's the easiest thing I've ever used. So definitely check that out if you haven't yet. Okay, so I think that's all for my current projects. So let's get into acquisitions and future knitting because they kind of always go together. So, speaking of row 1 yarns, I had gotten this month's. I had taken them out of the plastic baggie. See, now this month these are gorgeous colors. but they're really not like my colors, most of them. So here's the colors I got this month. They're more jewel tones. They're beautiful. And the yarn, the twist on the yarn is gorgeous. Of course, these are my two favorite because blue. And I love blue with like a golden honey color. So this dyer this month was Polka Dot Sheep. And I don't have the paper here where they're from. So that's my row 1. So this will probably be the last one I get for a while until I catch up on my granny square blanket, which, like I said, I did the last strip I think I showed last podcast, and then I haven't done any more squares since then. All right. And then last week when I went to Arkansas Yarn Co. to do our monthly video, of course I bought the granite yarn, the gray, which you saw in my blanket. And then they are also having a great sale on Madelinetosh, Hedgehog Fiber, and Ancient Arts, I believe. They're clearing those brands out of their store and to make way for new yarn coming in. So go on to arkansasYarnCo.com and they have mystery packs of them, or you can just go online and individually find your colors and they're discounted. Go under the sale tab on their website. So I had previously shown, I made, actually won a knit along from Professor Purl again. And she had sent me some thick like Rasta yarn and I made a winter headband. And let me tell you, that is like the best headband I've ever made. And so I wanted another skein of like thick yarn. And so I decided to look through the yarns that Lori was clearancing. And I found this one. I love this one. I wanted something a little more neutral because the other one I have is like bright greens, which I love. But just, you know, in case I wanted a little, tone it down a bit. It's because this one has like grays and like the copper, like silvery white in them. This is Madelinetosh Farm Twist. And this is the colorway First Light. So this will be a headband. I've kind of been craving some quick knits because I've been doing so many sweaters and there's no stopping in sight for my sweater knitting. But sometimes after not finishing something for a while, you're like, okay, I need to just start something I can finish, like to feel like you have a win. I don't know what it is. So probably at some point I'll just stop, make this. I have mitts that I want to make, socks I want to finish, and some dishcloths I want to make. So that'll be a win for a small project. Okay, another acquisition, future knitting, is if you watch the We Share Needles podcast, they just came out with an episode this past Wednesday, and they talked about the sweater we are making from Arkansas Yarn Co. for this year's Yarn Crawl. There's not a date yet for the Yarn Crawl officially, but some of us local folks, last year they made the same sweater, and they picked a day where everyone that made that sweater came in. They got a group photo. So this year, the sweater that they have picked is the Boxy Chevrons. And I really wanted to use something for my stash, but I didn't have a sweater quantity. This is the problem I have with my stash. A sweater quantity to make. But I had some of this yarn. And this is Knit Picks. Let me look at the tag here. Knit Picks Muse Fingering Weight. And this color is Delight Speckle. And I really like this. I'll pop in a picture of that sweater. And all the pictures I've seen that look really cute, where it has a speckle or variegated, and then a color from that as the chevrons, which go down the sleeves. So I ended up getting another skein of this, and then I got this for my chevron collar. And this is the color Savvy, which is also a Muse fingering weight. So Maddie and Kristen aren't super excited about the Boxy chevrons because it's not their jam. But ironically, when Lori told me this was the sweater that they had chose, I was excited because I've had this in my favorites for a while. The reason I haven't done it is because it's kind of interesting construction. You knit the sleeves first, which have the chevrons going down. You knit them flat. And then I'm guessing you connect them in the round and then you attach them. And I don't know. I haven't fully read the pattern, but I'm like, oh, that sounds intimidating a little bit. I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm excited that everyone else is doing it, so I can have help from friends if need be, which I probably will. But I'm really excited about the Boxy chevrons. I think this will be great. So that is one purchase, future knitting. And then the last thing I purchased, I had talked about that I frogged my husband's last sweater. Wasn't going to happen. We won't talk about it again. But I am making him the single malt sweater, which I'll put a picture in. And so this is going to be top down, one color, just a little bit of texture. I think it'll be great. So I won't show all of them, but I basically got a sweater quantity of this color. And again, this is Knit Picks. They were having a great sale on Wool of the Andes, so I thought, okay, I'm getting a sweater quantity for my husband, now's the time. So I got this on sale. I think the yarn to make this sweater, I think was like $25 for my husband, who's a tall guy. I mean, it was a great deal. So this is Wool of the Andes. It's worsted weight, and it's in Grizzly Heather. The picture of the sweater is in a brown color, and I kind of liked it because it's just classic. You can wear it with anything. It'll look good and classic with anything. So, yeah. Oh, and I'm housing this in my other new acquisition, which is a bag. This is a bag by Tanny Casey. And again, I'll link it below. I've realized with as many sweaters as I've been knitting, I don't have a lot of big sweater bags. I like having room. I prefer bags that are wider instead of taller, so I can put my yarn out, I can see where everything is. This bag has pockets in there that are really nice. This amazing leather strap. It's huge, and I have been eyeing her bags for a long time. I've heard a lot of people speak very highly of her bags, so this was like, okay, I need a sweater bag for my husband's sweater, which will be big, and this is it. So, really happy with that. All right, so that's all my acquisitions. So, are you still with me? If you are, I'm going to have a giveaway for this episode. Now, I briefly talked about the Arkansas Yarn Co. Arkansas Yarn Crawl. Last year, the sweater everybody made was the Bright Access Tee. If you're not familiar with it, I'll show you a picture. The pattern is just in this book. Knit Happy with self-striping yarn. So this is by Stephanie Lotman, which is Telly Bean Knits online. And this is the pattern, where you use self-striping yarn on the top, neutral on the bottom. And Maddie and Kristen talked about they didn't like the sweater for this year, but they were trying to decide if they were going to make it because they didn't want to be left out. And that's how I was last year. So last year, everyone was excited about making it, and I'm like, oh, I don't know. It just is not my style. I can't imagine wearing it, but I didn't want to be left out, so I bought the book, because you have to have the book to have the pattern. So then I bought the book. So then I bought the yarn. And then I'm watching them, you know, because some of them are super fast knitters, and they were knitting up this shirt, and I'm just like, I don't like it. Just my own personal preference. I just don't like it for me. Like, I would never wear it. And so I did get left out because I didn't make it. I was okay with it because it is not my thing. And that's all right. So I love self-striping yarn for socks, but I have this book, and I was even looking through it earlier, and I'm like, there's not really any patterns in here that I would make for myself. The other one I've always been intrigued with, which I saw when I went to Dallas-Fort Worth Fiber Festival in 2019. They have the sock arms sweater, where essentially you use the self-striping for the arms, and then the rest of the body is a different color. But again, I don't see myself wearing it. I think it's cool. I think it's awesome how she constructed the pattern to make that work. It is just not for me. So, in the mood that I am to like really de-stash things that I don't love, that I'm not going to use, I would rather this go to someone who has been eyeing it, who really wants it, who wants to make something from it, and would love it. You know, because if you've spent the money on something, you know, like, yeah, I could send it to Goodwill. But I would love to have somebody in the fiber community that really wants this book. So for this podcast, I'm giving away this book. I would just love it if you comment below. It doesn't have to be anything particular. Just tell me about yourself, maybe what you're working on, what you're looking forward to. I love to read comments, so I would love comment below. I record every 2 weeks, so that means you have from when this podcast goes up to, let's say you have till February or March 25th. And then at that point, I will pull a name, and by next podcast, I will announce a winner. So I hope you comment below on something, and I hope someone who really wants this book wins. So, yeah. So, it is the first podcast of March, which means I talk about stats, goals, things like that. So, let's get into that. So, February, I had a few goals, and I pretty much met all my goals. I wanted to finish my Autumn League pullover, which I did. Finish my January chevron before my podcast with Lori, which I did. Start sleeves on the V-back tee. I started, finished, and I'm almost done with the body now. And start my next crochet project, which you saw, which was the Hayride scarf. And then I also wanted to finish up the row 1 minis I was working on and make them into a strip, which I did. The only thing I didn't do is I wanted to do another 6 squares of my row 1 minis to try to catch up, which I did not do. So that's pretty good. In February, I had 15 skeins of yarn come in, 6 skeins of yarn go out. And if you're new here, I like to keep track of my yarn in and yarn out, but I do it very loosely. I don't count scraps, grams, all that. That's way too much. So I count either a 50 gram or 100 gram as a skein, because I like to order 50 gram skeins for socks a lot. So if it's a full skein and I just have scraps left, that's like a skein in and a skein out to me. I cast on 4 new projects in February, and I finished 4 projects in February, which was my Mama Vertebrae, my Autumn League pullover, my lightweight hipster shawl, and my latte DK socks. So I feel pretty good about those goals. So my goals for the month of March, I already mentioned 2 of them. I want to finish the V-back tee. I want to finish my Alei shawl. And of course, every month my goal will be to completely be caught up on my chevron throw. Right now, as it's still cold outside, it's kind of easy to do. But once it gets the middle of summer here in Arkansas and it's hot out, my house has a lot of light, which sometimes feels sauna-ish in my house. And by then I'll halfway done with the blanket, so it'll be on my lap. That's going to be more of a challenge at that point. So I've kind of kept it easy for myself on goals this month. But yeah, so that's it for goals. And then I mentioned last week I talked about, or last podcast, I talked about my favorite other podcasters. And because I realize I watch so many of them and I like to tell you all about every one of them, from now on it's going to be a staple where I mention the podcast of the week. So this week, the podcast of the week I want to mention is Noble Character Crafts. It is Amy. She lives in Nebraska in the U.S. She is a stay-at-home mom to 5 kids. She is a knitter and a crocheter. She makes project bags. Occasionally, she used to dye yarn. Every once in a while for prizes, she will have some of her hand-dyed yarn, which is gorgeous, on there. And she is an amazingly talented and fast knitter and crocheter. And the thing I kind of want to tell you about each podcast, because like I said, I like so many different types of podcasts, and each person has their own style. Amy just basically goes through what she's been working on, what she's been making. And the other thing I love about Amy is that you talk about, trying to use your scraps up or something. But I imagine, I don't know, I'm just saying this, a stay-at-home mom with 5 kids, and she homeschools them all, that they might, sometimes be on a tight budget. So, you use what you have. And Amy is like the most amazing for using up her yarn. I mean, all of her yarn. So she will show you a project with a sweater with a yarn. And then that yarn, she's like, okay, so then I used it in this project. But then I still had some scraps, so I used it in this project. She uses her yarn till it is all gone. And I just strive for that goal. That is amazing to me that she can do that. She has so many different array of patterns, from giant granny square blankets to sweaters and different things for kids and socks, and she's just lovely. She's just such a sweetie, and I love her podcast. So I hope you check it out. The link will be below. And she just came out with a new episode this week, so if you do follow her, make sure you've watched the new episode. So that's all I have for this week. I feel like I talked really fast because I felt like I had a lot to say. But I hope you are all doing well and taking time to take care of yourself and your family, your friends. And I'm so glad you're here. Please subscribe to this podcast if you haven't already. It helps me out. Make sure that you are using the hashtags for both of the make-alongs, and comment below for a chance to win this book. So I really enjoyed spending time with you, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye.